Good morning, all. I'd like to begin the meeting. Thank you for your patience. And we'll begin with the call to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Were there any corrections to the office minutes? Emily, did you find any corrections to the office minutes?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve those, please?
I'll make it.
Okay. Second. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. And we're still waiting on September. We didn't get September.
No.
Okay. The first applicant has requested an adjournment, and we'll begin with the Gaines family company discussion.
Please read that.
Yeah.
Wait, you still have to do the adjournment for MSD.
Right. I read that off. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. Good
How
afternoon.
are you? Edgar Papazian, architect, Sag Harbor, owner representative Danny Hans, 230 Town Line Road. This is the fourth time we've come before you. First in April as a discussion item to float our approach for amending the design of the house addition at 230 Town Line that had been built differently to what had been approved by this body. We received a positive reception for our approach with some valuable comments, and based on that, decided to come back with a permit amendment proposal in July based on that concept that we presented. When we presented the developed proposal in July, we were asked to come back after the board had a chance to visit the property and deliberate. Most recently, we were here last month in September, where there were some revisions to the scheme requested, and that brings us to today. Our project that we propose is based on our understanding that the board dislikes the as-built exterior stair, siding, and windows that were installed, not according to approved plans. Additionally, the design proposal you have before you tries to respond to all the points listed in the Ahrb decision to deny permit amendment dated March 26, 2022. And just quickly to reiterate our design approach, we've come up with the notion to clad the new addition to the original house in cedar horizontal battens spaced at 8 inches, as well as add a sunshade eyebrow above the second story windows to lend a more streamlined appearance, creating a more horizontal effect over the existing siding. Based on your helpful feedback from the discussion item session, we've taken that language and also used similar battens vertically on the first story of the original 70s gambrel house to tie the two parts of the house together. I recommended to the owner that we demolish the exterior roof stair and replace it with a spiral stair of a much smaller footprint, clad in teakwood slats to match the existing decks. We would replace the upper window sashes of the installed double-hung windows throughout the house with one without mountings to lend a more modern look to go with the overall aesthetic. We don't propose adding any more windows than currently existing. The existing window area for the addition is modest, consisting of smaller punched openings. We will also tone down the appearance of existing railings by replacing all the individual existing wood balusters with cable rail between the existing repainted rail posts. We would repaint the existing trim, railings, and anything that is white, including the windows, with Benjamin Moore Kendall charcoal, which is a change to our proposal based on your comments last time, to more closely match the weathered cedar. In order to make the front entrance of the house more appropriate to home this size, per the letter from March 2022, we opened it up by taking out the existing overhang replacing it with a slatted entry pergola and putting in a larger pivot door and glass side light, as well as a built-in bench. We propose plantings of beach grasses around the entrance of the house and around the addition to soften its appearance further. The idea here is to make the addition acceptable in your eyes as a worthy addition to Sagaponic and try to bring the project into conformity through this permanent amendment. The revisions to the presentation you have today include the following. 1, deletion of existing light fixtures at the corners of the house per your request. 2, deletion of the horizontal battens at the roof railing of the addition per Mr. White's suggestion, and replace the gable rail between the existing wood posts. 3, replacement of the proposed paint color with something darker to blend better with the weathered cedar, also per Mr. White's request. And with a paint sample furnished, this is the paint sample here for you.
Thank you.
Here's some other ones if helpful. Okay, so in conclusion, we continue to be contrite for the unfortunate series of events that occurred, and Daniel Gans, the owner, fully understands the importance of adhering to the Ahrb process and building from approved plans. And thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can you describe the change to the chimney?
It is currently stuccoed, but what it is not, it's not been capped yet. So we're proposing a steel chimney cap, everything to be painted the same color that we just provided.
Of the truck, okay, thank you.
And any significant changes to the grading and access for the walkout basement?
Not really. We do propose to plant that area with the beach grasses, which is visible on ARB 01 and in the lower image.
Is it more or less consistent with the initial approved grading, or is it hard to tell? It's been so many iterations.
Yeah, I don't really know, honestly. I think there was some very, I think the original proposal actually had some very sculptural land elements that aren't in this proposal at all. There were some boulders and stuff, I think I recall.
Edgar, did you alter the amount of busyness in the siding?
It's remained consistent at 8 inches for a while. What I did do is I took all of those horizontals off the top rail, because that was your comment from last time.
Yep.
So you can see more sky through it now.
Right. Yeah. And the eyebrow that you mentioned.
Right.
Can you speak, since the perspectives of the sketches here, it's all the same size lumber and so forth, and it's just basically a shape
Essentially, yeah.
based on the angle of the sun.
They're open louvers, and so they prevent the sun from entering,
The second
during
story
the
windows,
summer,
yeah.
for example.
And that coloring would be the same.
Exactly, yeah, it's all natural, it's all clear cedar with the outriggers that would hold it up, steel, and they be painted that color as well.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
No?
your work on this. I know it's gone through quite a bit of many hours.
Feel privileged to be here to talk to you.
I mean, there's definitely a lot more continuity, but
Mhm.
only one way to go.
Fine. Fine with it.
Okay. Emily?
Yeah, me too.
Okay. No. So I'll request a motion for approval on this. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor?
aye.
So that's 5. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's a long haul.
Yes.
Should I take a sample?
Yeah.
Sure, yes. Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just initial that. Maybe that's it back. Oh, that's the bottom. Okay. Pat,
Oh, I grabbed yours?
we're initialing that one. Okay, thank you. That's my notes. Your initials on it, please. Thank you. Today's date is
There are no pictures for the next. Recognition.
Let's come back and refine together. Thank you. John doesn't sign off.
Just raise his eyebrows.
I'm just here to try to keep.
Right, exactly.
Here to keep
Yes. So we are back at the discussion of the demo at 116 Town Line Road. Rob, are you here?
Good afternoon. My name is Rob Marks. I'm an architect with Roger Ferris and Partners. I'm here representing the owner of 116 Town Line Road. I was here a month ago with an application for demolition of the existing 2-bedroom, 1-bath cottage on the property. I'd like to tell a little story. Architecture exists at the precarious intersection of art and science and economics. This is an old story that has been recorded at least as far back as the 1st century BC, when Vitruvius identified the 3 elements necessary for a well-designed building: commodity, firmness, and delight. The light is the result of good design. That's the art part, if we're lucky and skillful. Firmness is the result of proper engineering. That's the science part. And commodity is the ability of a building to serve its purpose. And that's where economics enters the picture. According to Forbes and the Ahrb report, Sagaponic is one of the top 5 most expensive zip codes in the United States. It's number 3 on the Forbes list as of last count. The market value of this 0.4 acre property is over $5 million. According to the village website, the owner of this property is assessed over $1 million in property taxes every 4 years. In this context, our client aspires to live in a house more commensurate with his investment in property. Last time you asked if we had considered options for saving the cottage, and we did. We spent a lot of time on that. I won't bring you the history of our design review, but I do have a couple of context photos. These are 3 properties, 3 adjacent properties. The top 2, number 52 and 108 Town Line Road. 108 is the property next door. And the bottom one is 80 and 96 Town Line Road. The top 2 are properties where they preserve some portion of an existing cottage closer to the street and put double garage doors in the front. We ended up in a similar spiral of design and didn't feel like that was an appropriate response. The bottom shot is a more heavily wooded site with the building pulled back deeper on the property and more discreetly placed, creating more of a natural feel. And we ended up in that territory. What we proposing to do in response to the size and proportions of the site and in response to the zoning regulations is to retreat from the front property line, just the way we retreat from wetlands when we have environmentally sensitive sites, to pull the house deeper onto the site and to not have any garage at all. We are not allowed by zoning to park in the required front yard. So our driveway once runs deep along the property, actually to the back of the property. So the cars parked deep on the property, and the property can present itself with an image more like the one on the bottom of the sheet. So after studying the problem for a year, this is the solution that we came up with, is the need to take down the cottage. And that's why I'm before you today with this application.
Very good. We did have a couple of people that were interested in it. They did do some homework about it. The house movers wanted to cut the house into 3 pieces to be able to move it. And that seemed to compromise the integrity of the structure, as well as the attempt to waterproof all roof lines and so forth again. And so, to my knowledge, there has been no one else that was interested in trying to work through those challenges. So at this point, I believe the board is faced with the same situation that you are proposing. So I don't see, with the age of it and some background, I did actually find somebody who knew the owner and was related to the owner, which was kind of interesting, or the original builder, but there was not a, utilizing the structure was not a workable alternative. So I believe we're at a point where we would go ahead and grant the demolition. Is that something that we're
Yeah.
onto? Okay, very good. So is there a motion for accepting the application to demolish?
I'll make it.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for volume making that.
No, it's fine. I don't, yeah, because they made the motion.
Say aye.
Yeah.
Even if I make a motion.
Yeah, it would be helpful to.
No, there's.
Oh, we're gonna move on to new construction of this here, or do you wanna go there as the agenda shows?
Right. Edgar, I'm sorry, yeah, Rob, if you want to continue, you want to do that now? And then we
To do
can finish
application?
that?
Sure.
Okay, we're interested in seeing the photographs of the similar construction.
Is this the one with the house on the building? Or is that-
Well,
I didn't realize it was.
we looked at it last.
Oh.
Some questions, but we were also thinking about trying to say what was there.
I can give you.
Go back up to that every time.
The sheet.
Again, my name is Rob Morris. I'm an architect with Roger Ferris and Partners here representing the owner of 116 Town Line Road with an application for a new residence on this property. I was here before you a month ago with this application. You asked one question at that time. And I received a second question from Pat on Friday regarding the siding material. The siding material is a terracotta tile. This is a physical sample of the material. It's gray. It's laid up in a shingle pattern. This is a piece of weathered cedar. It lays up like this. It has the appearance of a cedar shingle.
If it's possible, could you just stand forward a little bit so that's in the direct sunlight so we can see the reflectivity? There we are. Thank you. Makes a difference. And these are the same colors that you're proposing?
Yes. So just as if I showed you some cedar shingles, I wouldn't expect you to imagine a McKinney white house. There is a precedent in the area. Excuse me. there is a house on First Neck in Southampton which uses the same material. Brought photographs and an article describing it.
I appreciate your thorough presentation today.
Thank you.
Maybe short. So the material is ceramic, but its profile and the setting pattern are shingled. So it works both as a siding material and a roofing material in the same spirit of shingle style, traditional shingle style houses. So we think that this is a contextual response, and it's appropriate response for the area. Our client wants to make architecture and make a substantial building. He's doing that by using interesting, significant, and substantial materials rather than making a monumentally scaled house. This house is small and discreetly placed on the property, but with rich material content. The second item that you asked about was landscape.
Yes.
I did not have a landscape plan at the time. I provided this in the interim. John Muse is the landscape architect. He's here today. I will introduce the landscape plan if you have more detailed questions. John is here to answer them. The plan is, as I mentioned earlier, to surround the house to mark the perimeter of the property with taller, denser, and sometimes evergreen vegetation.
What is the proposed height of the hedge?
The privet will be about 8 feet high, and it will be set in three layers deep. I included some renderings in the package that you have. Seemed unfair to not show any of the house in this one, so we set the camera angle high, but the truth is you really won't see the house from the street with the 8-foot hedge. We also plan to, this is a view of the front. If you were to walk around the hedge towards the front of the house, the driveway is on the left. The driveway will be grass pavers, so that we don't, with a lot that's only 80 feet wide, we would have about 1/8 of the site would be pavement if we pave the drive. So it has a grass paver drive all the way to the back of the property. Where the cars park, there will be a 20-foot by 20-foot parking area with a pervious pavement, a crushed shell pavement, and that will be where they park and wash the cars all the way on the back of the site. This 3/4 view from the front, again, is inboard of the privet hedge. The back of the house is the family living area. That space will be anchored by one mature plane tree. Which is back here. This is the privet hedge along the front. Heavy planting along the side and the rear, also decorative planting along the rear, which John can walk you through. These are the grass pavers, the full depth of the property along the front of the house. And this is the pervious paving for the parking and car washing. There's also a hedge. Because of the tight site, the parking is immediately adjacent to the outdoor terrace. So there's another hedge here to screen the cars from the house. Again, that small rear yard is anchored by the tall London plane tree and then framed by the hedges. And the south side of the house with the grass paver drive coming from the street to the backyard and the parking back here.
Thank you. Any questions?
The landscaping is definitely gives you a better idea. It looks very nice.
Thank you. Do you have particular questions about the landscaping, John?
Is there any concern with the grass pavers just getting sort of north light and that will have time to sort of regenerate when it gets driven on and stuff? Or I don't have much experience with the grass pavers.
I'll defer that question to John.
Does it?
Hi.
John Hughes, Liberty Landscaping, Bridgehampton. What was the question?
The grass pavers,
Yeah,
will it, given that it's sort of restricted from some of the southern light, is it have enough to regenerate?
is there enough light there
Yeah.
along that line? Yeah, there's a row of Leland's there, but there's enough sunlight along there, because there's existing grass there, it's been there for a while. So the grass pavers would have an issue there, getting any light for that.
Was the juniper existing? And you're moving it?
That juniper is existing, yes.
Okay, you're just moving it there, or was it already there?
It's getting moved about 30 feet from, it's currently there, but it's getting moved just a bit from where it is currently to where it's shown on that map.
Are there plans to do anything around the base of the house here, or you like?
No
it
foundation plantings.
Clean to the grass?
At the moment, no foundation plantings.
Is that just to kind of keep the acreage maxed out?
Just the aesthetic, the client just likes that aesthetic, kind of minimalist situation around the house. Yeah.
Any other-
me.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
No.
No?
That looks fine.
Alicia?
No.
I just have one question. I missed the previous on this, so I apologize, and thank you, your presentation is great. Could you just explain what you were trying to say? Are you going to pre-weather the facade, or you were saying that this is what it would look like when it?
That's what it will look like when it goes up.
Okay, is there a motion for the approval of this?
I'll make it.
Okay, so, second,
Second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, those opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Great design.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Discretion. Pockets of discretion. I like it.
Some interesting precedents. Some notes.
This is the previous.
William, the architect.
This is the solar panel that's being proposed on this project. It's not a reflective.
And we've been asked to not have this around for too long. So it could be removed today if we really like it. And certain staff members will get me presents.
Dining room table.
Okay, sorry.
Sure, William, the architect. Here with the owner of the Burns to present our changes from last month's meeting. Our takeaway from that was glazing, some windows, both on the front and the rear elevation. The body, the material of the house, I guess the ratio of the light ephes to the truss of the wood color came into question. So we went back and we looked at the design, primarily the materials to come up to be attached. On the front elevation, I have the before and the new renderings back to back in the presentation, so we can toggle back and forth. The front elevation, the southern elevation, the body of the house, a two-story element. The first floor windows we actually reduced by 6 inches in height, the sills up. Didn't discuss it, but we felt that was a help. On the second floor, those sills came up 18 inches. So we no longer have this relationship where the first and second floors are matching in height, which sometimes is a little industrial or commercial. On the front elevation also, you see we took the body of the house, the two-story element there, and we put the truss of the wood-looking material on that part of the house, which really flipped the proportion we feel. Now it feels more like a wood house with maybe two one-story ephes elements. The one on the left being sort of the original house, if you will, moved back. That's the original sort of location of the house. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the before and after. You can toggle back and forth very quickly to see the impact of the windows change. If we go to the third slide, the next, the rear elevation. So this is the new proposed elevation. Again, we trussed on the body of the house. The windows upstairs, which were a larger fixed picture window in the middle with two casement windows flanking, with a post in between. We thought that also too. We just felt that opening in the whole, very large in proportion, We eliminated the post between the windows, we reduced the sill of the windows, and the center window is now the same size. It's not a picture window, it's larger, it's the same size. If you toggle back and forth, you'll see that change pretty drastically on the
Where's-
second floor there.
Sorry, where's the post between the windows?
On the second floor, the three windows in each room, there was a 6-inch column there, which we had clad in a brake metal, which is now gone. If I can approach the pictures, if you toggle back and forth. So you'll see in this elevation, these are two 6-inch posts between the windows which had brake metal. If you go previous, that's gone, the windows are all together, which creates a lot less mass in the whole window, how the window reads in the back elevation. Also in the rear to the right on that gable element, that reverse gable, which is ephes, we raised that sill up on that window by 18 inches also. Our new numbers, just for the numbers' sake, the front elevation, and I have a light size at the end of the presentation. It was at 23% glazing on the front, and we're now at 21.3%, so we eliminated almost 2% glazing. The rear a little more significant, we were 37.5% glazing, and we reduced that to 35%. So again, we're at 2% glazing. I think the back though, the reading of the windows on the second floor makes me feel more than that. And then we have the rest of the renderings. If you want to continue on, you can toggle through the differences. Again, the materials, the roof is a galvanized metal roof. We have sample, non-reflective. The solar panels which on the south elevation aren't required, but are wanted, and those are non-reflective. We have a sample here. Those don't show as much as the subtle change we made. Those are the new materials and the prior materials and the aerials. Yeah, we continue on through the pictures, I guess, at the other elevation, you can flip through quickly, that one is the material change. And then we have the light studies. The nighttime is the same, go back and forth. That was existing, it's proposed now. The rear, same thing. And then the light studies show the percentages at the end of the presentation. We also have an alternate to the siding, the color of the siding, since there's a lot more of it now. We felt that the house might overall feel a little darker in color. And this is a lighter, more beachy, if you will, because on the beach. Color for the materials. Again, it doesn't fade, it doesn't age, it doesn't stain, it doesn't need any maintenance, it's a real maintenance material. And a picture of it actually in place. Is that image?
It definitely has a much warmer
Yeah.
feeling overall, since you have flipped the stucco and the trestle. Sure. And I like the adjustment to the windows on the second floor. That helps a lot. Do you guys see this already down there?
Yeah.
They have a landscape, I believe.
We took the landscape strip over here, plan it out, is it? It's in the file, yeah. There it is.
I think the changes are great.
So Michael, I don't know if you want to discuss this in any kind of detail, but essentially you'll see there's a lot of sort of native, natural, low vegetation proposed on the property. Not for the rendering of some grass, you'll see the whole tennis court, the whole north part of the property, and along the east buffer, that's all gonna be low, unkept native vegetation. The lawn area is there, screening on the perimeter, on the street. Nothing to the east, that is all preserved land.
What are the trees along the first part of the driveway?
On those kind of large round things.
Yeah.
Those are gonna be low plantings. We didn't specific, but, and I don't wanna use hydrangea as the go-to, but something low decorative. So that there's layers between the street on the outside as well as the inside. The ones on the outside will probably be somewhat more modest, because I'm gonna probably put them right at the property line, which will be between the buffer of the street and the, you know, the setback. The ones on the inside, I want to be a little more decorative. We didn't come up with an exact plan yet. And the left side, intentionally, where that green area is, you know, I know that Sagaponic is sensitive to massive blockage of property, and so that's going to be a low hedged area so that it doesn't feel like a wall going across. It'll also let more light in throughout the day, just as a great feature to add to it.
Is there a gate there at all or no?
There is a gate now that exists. We're gonna leave that in place. I may at a certain point want to request to move the gate onto the current drive, you know, the proposed driveway. But for now, we're gonna use that as a sort of a service entrance and to keep an existing feature that if it goes away, it becomes a much more difficult proposal to address in the future.
And that is not to be, the style of the gate or the features of the gate are not changing, is that correct?
We haven't really decided. The gate that's there now, I'm gonna actually physically protect it so it doesn't change at all. When I go to possibly add the other gate, I will bring in a proposal. It will actually probably be a little bit less, because right now the existing gate is 5 feet going down. So it's a little bit more massive, and I actually don't want that. I want to do something.
We approved that one a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
But I want to bring it down in some way similar to the gates that you approved on 614 Sag Main, the house that I did. You know, very low, modern-ish, but with a very soft texture, accommodating the see-through elements. As well as the stone blending on the house with the gate columns. But, you know, I don't want to muddy the water right now. I just want to, you know, one step at a time. I want to get my house going and see where I go with the other elements.
If it's not a part of the present application.
No,
Right.
I was just curious. Yeah. Very good. Any other questions from the board? Comments?
Tad nitpicking, but I think that the change from stucco to the siding is really nice. But as a result, the chimney seems a little incongruous being stucco there when you already have sort of stone elements representing fireplaces.
That's an oversight. I would like to carry the stone up onto that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Make a note of that. No, I'm happy.
You're gonna ego this way, okay?
No, look, that's actually an oversight.
Okay, I figured.
Yeah, the flashing is there.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna mention as well.
Actually, I'm glad you're pointing it out, because then if I did it in stone and it showed stucco, so we will modify that.
Well played.
I don't want a negative, positive pushback.
So if we could get just a clarification of that, then I think we're fine.
You could in theory do it if you want to make a handwritten annotation on, it's going to be the same exact spec of stone material.
Yes.
If you'd like to do
Just
that, we
make a note
could
in the
make a note
motion.
on every page where the chimneys.
Okay. That's fine, or we could do it by COT after we do the.
Up to you.
Okay. Are there any other concerns from the board?
May I ask, it's Janice Delano, the next door neighbor. May I ask 2 questions?
Yes.
One question is, I see the change in the exterior with a lot more of the material that looks like wood. And in between all the cracks in the wood and all of the corner sides, it appears to be black. And I was curious if that's really what it's going to look like. There's going to be a lot of little, like it's sideways horizontal lines. And is it going to be black in between the lines, or is it going to be natural looking in between the lines of the wood?
Well, the lines in between horizontally are just a gap. The lines on the corners, we haven't come up with a final design yet. I think that in looking at the product, I am definitely going to keep a corner element. It makes a much cleaner, watertight connection. So
It's going to be black potentially. That picture is what bothered me.
I took that shot off of another house. It's probably going to be an anodized bronze to match the windows as opposed to a black. It's just, it shows there. I just took a shot so you could get a visual of the element change as well as a more characteristic color palette for the body of the house.
So the reveal between the wood is not black. On the sample, you can see it's sort of a brownish color. Those are really just shadow lines. The shadows itself make it look a little darker than it is.
Right.
But you'll see
good. And I hope
wood is actually brown in color.
I hope the corners perhaps will also kind of match and look natural, and not bronzy or black, whatever. I hope. Anyway, one other question. I just was noticing, and this is of particular interest to me because I'm right next door and I have a really small parcel. My parcel is only 110 feet wide, and this other one is like probably 300 feet wide. I'm just curious why the driveway, it looks like how close is it to the property line? It looks like it's about 7 feet maybe.
Well, it was based on where the garage is, we could pull it slightly closer to the house. Look, there's only two of us. We're not big partiers. And so the layout, I think, in some way actually sort of protects you because there's less action going on between my house and yours. Moving the driveway would just change some of the disposition of the grass one way or the other, so that's my 1 o'clock alarm. Apologize.
But John, where the driveway is they're allowed to put their driveway?
They're allowed to have it there by right.
Yeah.
So that was my intention, to make it balanced with my house as well as just, it just seemed to be the right place. I mean,
How far is it from her home?
well, there's a row of trees. I'd say if you're looking at it from here, the right edge of the driveway to the property line is probably 7 or 8 feet at the well, maybe in the very back, it's probably 5 or 6 feet, but in the front, it's clearly at least 10 feet.
I just was curious how all of that'll look. I like the idea of the front that you have Ahrb green giant, which is the same as I have, and hopefully it would look like a continual line. And then I was thinking that what would really look wonderful, it's too bad the driveway wasn't right where the existing driveway is and kind of curved around and joined the driveway you have planned, but I guess that's a whole nother thing and I don't want to hold you up, but I don't know. It looks lopsided to have a driveway shoved way over there when you have such a big parcel. I don't know. And it will, it'll really be close to my property, but that's life. I don't think it's a noise factor. Just for me, I was just thinking of how it would look from the front, your house and my house, and the continuation of that line of hedging would be really pretty, but it'll be broken up by that driveway, which is like right there.
As the driveway is not an architectural feature, and if it's as of right, it's not within this board's purview.
Okay.
I mean, I think a neighbor's perspective certainly is something we can consider. But I think, to gain all that green grass yard, I mean, that makes sense to me where you have put it.
Well, look, here's what I would say. in an effort to possibly satisfy her better and as well as myself. You know, for me, I like people when they get out of their car to be sort of as close as they can to the front door because of weather, generally. So when I go to locate the driveway, if you go back to the landscape plan, which I have thought about, actually, let me get up if you don't mind. This area was the key element. And if I thought about moving it over and thinning that down, it wasn't that much of a problem to me because this is non-used space and I would pull the whole thing slightly forward. So it's possible. I don't want to make a big issue. I'd like that to not be I'd like it to be a non-issue, but it's something I would certainly keep in mind for both our goods as well as just, you know, a nice plan.
Thank you. The material of the driveway is large open stone? Or?
Yes.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
No? Listen? No? Okay, very good. Thank you for your work on this. Well, we appreciate the improvements and thoughtfulness going into it. I know the board, or I know the staff would love to get that solar panel out of the meeting room. So is there any particular discussion on the panel? If you've had a chance to look at it, it is not very shiny at all. It's quite subtle as far as I
It
know.
is recessed into the roof, it's flush.
Okay.
Also, I want to thank you for the comparison shots from last meeting, because that really helps a lot. See the large changes.
Very good. So pending the corrected renderings, do you want to put it to COT or just put in the motion that the understanding is of the?
It's whichever you think is the cleanest and easiest way. COT is,
Okay,
is
that's
fine
fine.
by me.
Okay. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that
Very
what
good.
you
Yeah, I don't, what does that mean?
If the COT means it gets pushed up to next month?
No, it's
No.
in
No.
between the
Oh,
month.
between, okay.
It just requires a committee of 2 people to just
finalize
make
the
sure that
oversight.
they've seen the fireplace and that it's what it is said it was gonna be,
With the-
and it's fine.
The
Did
stone,
you make
stone
the
chimney.
note about the
material.
chimney?
Yeah, so
It's
I'll-
on my architect.
Okay.
You just send a picture of that, we check it and it's done.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion for approval? And
So we'll approve pending the
Pending
COT.
Adjournment to committee.
Not a problem at all.
right, we would adjourn to committee of 2. Very good. Is there a motion for that?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Good to see you. Good to see you. One thing at a time. Get this out. This is a real panel, by the way, so I have to be very careful. The solar guy wants it back. Salvage.
Okay,
543 Daniels Lane.
so we're up to 543 Daniels. Let's go ahead and get started.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Turkel from Leroy Street Studio Architects.
You've seen two presentations from my colleague, Veer Nanavati. Unfortunately, he can't be here. He had a long-standing plan to visit family this week. So I'm going to do my best to stand in. Just to start, we are very keen to take on board the feedback received last time at the last hearing. In the best cases, when we're lucky, board members and fellow architects offer suggestions that really improve a project. We think that's the case on this presentation, on this project. The last hearing feedback was kind of had three different issues specifically. On the material palette, there was a suggestion that we're bringing in some wood to increase the warmth and to soften the project. The feedback we also had was that the stone was a little bit too mauve or beige, and we were also asked to take a look at the percentages of glazing. I'm going to present the new version of the project through slides, but before I do that, I just wanted to do a brief recap. I think this might be, not everybody was here at the first hearing, to explain a little bit about the project, and I'd like to walk us through the slides. Our studio is interested in architecture that's sensitive, that's responsible and enduring. We set out to create a house in this case that is quiet, soft, receding, pleasant. It's low slung, nestled with deep overhangs. It has a much smaller second floor mass that's set back with planted decks. The project is inward focused. We're very respectful of the neighbors, held away, and virtually invisible due to the planting all the way around it. And you'll see that. The night views are almost black. The project celebrates the site. Ed Hollander, the landscape architect with whom we've collaborated for over 25 years, and we work together very closely. With openings, the project has all sorts of openings to frame views of the landscape. In terms of construction, the project is really intended to be timeless and resilient. Our client is committed to working with the highest quality materials and details. The landscape is extremely important to us for screening and privacy, but also to create a sense of a courtyard house, very intimate. So can we start the slides? The way we've indicated the previous presentations with a blue frame around it, this shows the material palette that we presented last time, a combination of stone, kind of two ways with concrete and the steel and glass window system. Next slide, please. What we're proposing to do is to introduce wood as suggested, which we think is really an improvement to the project and really something that we're in love with now. And to look at the stone, to bring in some gray, that was a suggestion that was made as well. And we have these mock-ups here. There's a kind of before and after. And I'm going to get into this in greater detail. The wood shown here, the concrete here, and the stone. This was the previous mock-up, and this is the new one proposed.
I thought you were proposing the multicolored stone with the wood. I think they reversed.
I need to move it into the light. This is extremely heavy.
Yeah, that one's more monochromatic to me on the right.
This stone is actually, you can't do it, Aaron, it's really heavy. This, when I move it, you'll see it's very gray.
Yeah, I don't mean the stone, I mean
If I move them,
rubble.
should I
Rubble.
move this maybe into the light?
So sorry, so sorry.
I could have broken it also.
Created a mess.
So the concrete, I'm gonna move the concrete closer to you. It's a little bit more gray.
I love the color.
That's the concrete. The stone, I'll walk it over.
Doesn't that look more? Oh, I see.
See, it's got more going on, but
I
it
do.
depends on the walk.
Totally.
Everybody?
So
Do the heavy
the
lifting.
Background on that one seems darker.
yeah, the concrete on that one is
Yeah,
darker.
so the
Well, I'm gonna
mortar,
shout
this
out.
is also, we should be very careful with this. The mortar, the goal is for the mortar and the concrete to be in a family. and it's going to be something we can tweak and play with. But this is the concrete, and there's the mortar, and
Right.
they're meant to be in conversation.
Yeah.
And they're very,
Yes, thank you.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
Should I leave this
Yeah,
here for a
sure,
second?
that's great.
Okay, so,
To her point, the contrast is really beautiful there, and the natural. I don't know, maybe it's a light, but.
It is-
But I can see it.
It's hard.
yeah, I mean, one of the things that starts to happen is the house does different things in different lighting.
Yeah, of course.
We're really into that, but the selection of stone, there's some flexibility in it, but the goal is to do something closest to the mock-up that I just showed.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay. We met with the stone suppliers and representatives from Macquarie since we were here last, and actually sourced stones that were available. And we identified limestone as appropriate for this project, and just in terms of its durability. In terms of the concrete, we actually are working with a concrete consultant who furnished that sample. It's a custom mix, and it's a warmer, grayer, as I mentioned, material. The wood is a thermally modified wood that's extremely durable.
What does thermally modified mean?
That means it's basically subjected to extreme heat. Share this with you, and it's very durable for exterior use. And that wood weathers silver gray.
Is
It's
it
an-
compressed? How does
it's-
it receive, how does it?
it's just baked basically at 400 degrees, but it's oak. And it's one of the ways that you can actually use oak in exterior applications. We're using it on several projects right now. It's been tested and mocked up. Very durable. The wood is being used both in infill panels and in louvers, which I'll show you as we go around after the project. But this, pardon?
How does it compare in price with like an E-Pay or a T?
That's an excellent question. One of the reasons why thermally modified wood is so popular these days is that both eBay and cedar have gone through the roof in terms of cost. So, all of the, all the top builders are using this right now, and we're building several homes with it. This image shows a kind of before and after, which indicates what we're after. The combination of the concrete, the stone, and the wood together make for a much warmer composition. I think really addresses one of the issues raised, and we're gonna proceed and walk you around the house.
But this isn't a weather gray, you're saying? It's not.
That's
it's not gonna
already on
keep
its
the
way,
warmth?
that's on its way to weathering, and we've indicated that. And we have the capacity to oil it to bring it back to brown. So that is the plan.
So you want it to be brown?
Clients don't love silver gray.
Okay.
So the idea is that it's gonna be, and we deliberately grade the render to make sure that we were representing something truthful. How we're intending to use it. Okay. So this gives you a view of the site. It shows the building set back within an expanse that's all rimmed with very dense plants for privacy. So the building is virtually invisible. These show the views. Thank you. To move to the next. These are the existing conditions, both from Pheasant Crossing and from the cul-de-sac off of Pheasant Crossing. You go to the next slide, please. This is right at the entryway looking south, also from the end of Pheasant Crossing, and you can start to see, just glimpse the house through the planting. Next, please. And this is what happens when you remove all of the planting, and you start to see now the version of the house that shows both a reduction in the glazing. You'll see the old version next, and a significant addition of wood. There is reduction in glazing both in the guest wing to the right and the second floor. Second floor is significantly less glazing, and an addition of wood in both places, including louvers in front of the living room on the lower floor. This is the view of this at night with planting. The next is showing a view of it at night without any planting, but the next again, if you toggle back and forth, you can see the extent to which the glazing has been further reduced from the last. Next slide, please. This is from the cul-de-sac. You barely see the house. You can spy a little bit of wood. Next, please. Without any planting, you get to see the bit of the north and east elevations of the project. The east elevation, we've increased the solidity, decreased the brick glazing significantly. There's the past and there's the present. You can see the addition of wood, so it's significantly softened the reading of the building from afar, where you see the second floor wood. We're really happy with the way that looks. Nighttime view with planting. And next, please. Without planting, and then the next one, please. Previous version. So we've really decreased the extent of glazing and nighttime light. Next, please. Standing on Potato, looking north, both from the west and from the east, existing planting. Next, please. This shows the existing planting by winter, before it was summer, just to point out that it's a very densely shrubbed zone with many, many layers of existing growth. Next, please. This is a view looking directly from the southeast looking northwest, from Potato again, please. And this is showing the row of planting that Ed's planning to add behind the existing planting. What you've seen that's existing is actually not on the property. This is additional planting to be added on the property for additional screening. Next, please.
Sure. The white line at the top is actually the line of the existing hedgerow that's there now, so that
I'm just
unknown.
obscuring it so you can see what you would see, but will never see on the property. Next, so this is from the southeast looking northwest at the corner, right? And toggling back and forth between the old scheme, which you won't see, or the new scheme, which you still won't see. Next.
What is the line in the, is that a walking path in the grasses, or is that a driveway?
Let's go back.
It's just a
Walking.
mowed grass path for walking.
Yeah, there's no drive. And this shows, yeah, the next view, right, from the, this is the same view, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, we're just going backwards. Okay. Same thing from the due south?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is Ed's extra layer of planting shown with the dashed line above where the current planting is. Next, please. And this shows our house from the south with the additional wood, with you really see how the south exposure, which you barely see, is extremely narrow. It's deliberately kind of sited so that you're presenting the least of the house and certainly a lot less glass. And this is the old version versus the new. Okay.
What are the grasses that are taller?
We would do, a lot of this is going to be a series of kind of native meadow grasses and wildflowers, kind of pollinator meadows.
Okay. Now from the southwest, yeah, this is the line of the existing and nighttime view. Thank you. Before and current. Okay. Now we're truly in the southwest.
Yeah.
This is Ed's planting, and next slide will show you the house. So this is something we're very excited about. The project really presents a small second floor, lots of baffled windows that you barely see in, but can see out. A very low slung building, very quiet and discreet.
Sorry, what's a baffled window?
If you could see, there are wood panels in front of the window,
Okay.
which kind of
That's
hides
the
them.
virtual slide.
Yes. Just keep going. And yeah, this shows the night view before, had more glass and now less. What we've done is we've zoomed in here. Only visitors to the site would ever see this, but we wanted to share with you the building design, which we're really excited about. One of the things that we did to further reduce the amount of glazing is we widened the fascia, deepened the overhang, and it created a low-level planter around the base of the building, which further reduced the amount of glazing. It gave us a really beautiful planter in the foreground. You can see that. You see the before without that and after with that. So by deepening the overhang, we actually reduced the amount of square footage of the project, interior heated and cools.
spaces. So you can see the addition of the wood, like I described them as baffles, but they're panels at the second floor, panels at the lower floor, you see it on the guest wing to the left. And all of that reduced the amount of glazing and kind of softened the look of the house. Warmed it up. Again, just a view as you stand in front of the house as a guest. And you can see the addition of wood both in the front door, the second floor, and over on the guest wing to the right, their doorway. There are louvers at the living room, which is the horizontal space to the right of the front door. And then the kind of decrease of glass generally. There's the difference between before and after. So, and this kind of quantifies the change in glazing overall. It's a net 5% reduction in glazing for the overall project. Elevation by elevation, the north elevation was a reduction, you just see, from 28% to 22%, south from 39% to 32%, east from 25% to 18%, and west from 38 to 34%. So a significant reduction elevation by elevation.
And the baffling is part of the reduction?
Yeah, so the wood actually is doing a lot of good, and we're really excited about it. So that is the extent of the presentation for today, and I'm happy to give more information and answer questions.
That's terrific.
I like the corrugated concrete as well.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Any comments?
I didn't see it till now, but I think that the improved is vastly more appealing.
I think the improvements were nice. I still think the first one was absolutely gorgeous. That's.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Were there any other follow-up comments on anything? Are we at a point where we could support a motion to move forward? Yes. Okay. Is there a motion for the approval of the application as presented today with the improvements?
I'll make it.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, really?
I love you. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
We have to go back to the first one?
I'm obsessed with it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And no longer?
Yes.
Mark will do a house for you just like that.
Okay, sounds good.
Without any rule.
Ray, you're still in the workday.
No. He's got that.
You know what?
We got it out.
Okay.
We got it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
I just see 230 in the rear view mirror. I just see 230 down. Let's see what they built.
Wow, I didn't see this as well. I'm so confused. I love a good neighborhood study. Since someone that has done a Sagaponic, you said, right, almost like someone has done photographic. All of the houses in Sagaponic, someone has photographed them, right?
I mentioned to you about this one, this that block.
Okay, but not like the entirety of Sagaponic.
Not that I'm aware of.
See, do you have that? Yeah. As a point in history to refer back to.
Right, yeah. Now somebody recently went through the entire cemetery and took photographs of every single stone. That's a
Really?
big topic.
Trust fund material that, I've seen that, I've seen a lot of it.
Yeah, like, do you know? I'm not sure you would know. Most likely.
I've seen a lot of Trespa in Bridgehampton.
Okay.
There are a lot of houses in Bridgehampton with Trespa now,
Oh, yeah.
closer to the beach.
There is one project that was done on Town Line Road, it was the first time the trestle was used here. It was, Will Lanier design, actually.
Yeah.
Farrell built it, very contemporary, almost modern house, but it uses larger panels on it.
Okay, Bob?
Not the last.
No, you're not last.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I love to talk about history, but Vitruvius just takes the cake.
I know, right? That was great.
Can't beat that.
I took notes.
This is the thing. This is the very same item that was on the discussion list at the August meeting. Nothing's changed. One of the things I want to point out, because it could be confusing, is that in our drawing set, there are references to the garage. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're only talking about the barn. So I'd like to go, could we start with the photographs?
Do whatever you want.
Thank you. Abby, is it possible? There's a letter with some photograph, a narrative with photos. And these are the same photos from August, so if you don't have them, I can just talk through them. The reality is that this historic barn has been compromised for most of its history, leading to today, where, as Tom pointed out, there's a firsthand recollection of why the roof is the way it is. And that is because of the hurricane of '38. The reality is that whoever then did that repair prepared the roof, framing wise and rafter wise, to work with the existing lean in the building. So that's 1938, nearly 100 years ago. That's what led to this kind of funhouse shape, to every bit of the windows and doors that has led to, in these photographs that I would like to have shown you, and did show you in the past, is that a lot of the original historic timber frame is missing. It's been compromised, it's been destroyed, and so what I'm here today to ask your approval on is to demo this structure the way it is today, knowing that our plan is to copy or follow the exact footprint of the barn, and using the Secretary of the Interior standards for the preservation of historic structures, we will create a new timber frame using the correct like-kind materials, meaning white oak, and the timbers will be the correct size. And from there, we will go to, if we can go to the drawings now, Abby. those are the renderings, those drawings right there. Let's go with that. So, and just go back right there. That's it. So here, and maybe Vitruvius had a hand in this, but the idea is that there's no foundation under this barn, none. The barn is sitting on an enormous tree trunk, it's sitting on some stone, as you would expect it when it was originally built. But the idea is that that's not gonna work going forward. So what you're seeing on the lower left-hand corner of that drawing is our engineer's preferred method of creating a proper foundation with a footing and a slab that we would then erect this new barn on. And now if you go to the next page, that's the first floor. So what you can see by looking at the first floor of this drawing is that the footprint of the barn is exactly the way it is today. Only this shows that it would be on a proper foundation. And on the next, there we go. That's the second floor, as it would be even today, maybe slightly a little different on the inside. But if you go to the roof, this is the next slide. Okay, so you all recall that there were some skylights probably put in the 60s.
Maybe after.
Yeah. Well, if they were all part of that 70s renovation of the house, it's entirely possible that that's when that happened. We prefer not to have them on the south side of the structure. Just creates an enormous amount of heat. We like the idea of the natural light, so we'd like to move them to the north side and just pick up the ambient light. So there are the skylights we're proposing on the north side of the barn. And here's some elevations. And if you just go, Abby, to the next one after that. And there you go. So this is the way it is today. And Abby, if you could go to the next slide. That's the foundation, non-existing. Next slide, please. First floor plan, and then the second floor plan. There are the skylights. Now if you go to the elevation. That's what we're dealing with. You know, this is where you can see it's completely no longer even close to being plumb. And the next slide. And many of you have been there, so it's, you know, not to dwell on it. But this is what we would eliminate. We would return structural integrity to the structure. And I know there are some color renderings to go with it, if you'd like to turn to those. If you'd ignore the garage, there's a barn, and then there's one behind it, and that would be the back of the barn. That's sort of the view, similar to the photograph in the bathroom here, where you see how inextricably linked the garage is with the barn. And there's the historic house in the front. So what we are asking for is permission to demo the barn and move forward with a building permit application to recreate the barn, same footprint, using a historic timber frame profile with the correct materials, white oak, and then finish it the way it appears today.
Include a paint color
It would be just the way it is today.
with a little bit of green.
With a little bit, yeah.
I'm not kidding.
No, it's, you know, it's funny how paint ages. Right, I understand, right? But yes, that's the plan, that's the idea, that we're not changing anything, we're just trying to fix it.
Has a building permit application been
Yes, but
submitted?
Has not. And maybe just while we're on the subject of the barn, not included, I mean, in this application, this session today, I'll be back to talk about the garage another time. So, as you know, the garage has been demoed and we have the slab and
I have no problem with demolition.
Same.
The, just a follow-up question. What you have in the rendering dated July 20th, the existing south elevation, you're changing quite a bit of the appearance of the windows, and I just want to
We have changed the
eliminate
windows,
that.
that's right, and they reflect the floor plan. Those three windows, Tom, are exactly what we would like to have.
No, I'm speaking about the front door of the barn.
Yes,
The sketch is different than the plan.
the sketch was different than that.
Is that right, Tom?
Not really, no,
No, it's
there's
not meant-
large balance over the.
Well, there's only
Well,
one
there's a
thing-
transom, over double doors.
Well,
Right,
there's one layer of glass panes above
Right,
these double doors,
yeah.
and in the drawing, there's two.
I'm looking at the cover sheet.
And the drawing, also there's another square window.
Right.
over-
this
The
comment-
windows, if you look at A 4.3,
Mhm.
so that's a 5-foot French door with a transom over it.
Mhm.
And then those are the three 6/6 divided light windows.
Yeah, I'm looking at EX 4.3.
The existing,
Yes.
right,
it
I
says-
understand.
So I'm just comparing where you're going and where you're coming from.
I see. Well,
And but it's a very different language.
Yeah, A 4.3 is where we'd like to go.
Okay. Now, A 4.3
Right.
is not exactly what you have here in this diagram either, so.
So are we approving this design, or we're approving just the demolition?
I'm asking to demo the barn.
Okay.
So we're not gonna comment on this.
I'm exactly,
So you'll come back
correct, right,
for a new application for.
Right. that's right.
Okay, all right. Any other questions regarding just the demolition? No?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make it.
Second? Mhm. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Dealing with all the beams.
Most of those beams have already been pretty well destroyed.
Yeah.
We have a few left over from the house, but you have to come and see the house. John was there the other day. It's really great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Off. Photographs. And just have something to look at.
The next one?
Yeah. Thank you. Existing?
Did you have a set from the other day? Did you take this up with you?
I don't think so.
That's what I'm sure.
Okay, that's fine.
My name is Ahrb Peterson, architect, on behalf of Stephen and Jenna Markowitz for 121 Old Barn Lane. And the demolition application is for a structure, the CO from the town of Southampton from 1980. The It's a mixture of flat and slab roof, vertical siding, consistent with what was style of home, 1980. And we're looking to demolish that structure and that's associated with it.
Oh, yeah. and
So, having visited it on Friday, it is well planted. As you can see. The existing hedge out on the street is about 12 feet.
I'd say it's higher than 8.
Yeah. It's very secluded. The neighbor to the right is very close to the property line. It's only about maybe 12, 15 feet away from the line. A little bit more space on the left of the existing dwelling.
Yeah, did you say the architect? I'm sorry if you did.
I don't think we can. Is there an architect on the field? From 19
GIS
Okay.
is just the seal. The student.
It's very, be careful what you say. It does have a unique,
Nobody
size.
knows who the architect was in the current,
I'm not sure.
do we require that before we,
Not
demolish
unless it's someone that's note.
but that we don't, if we don't know who it is, we don't know if it's someone of note.
This is true.
Has a secret, the long form EAF been submitted on this one?
It is not.
So under the code, one needs to submit a long environmental assessment form part 1 pursuant to secret. That needs to be in the file. If you would like to take a look at that, it is 24573 B3B, actually lowercase b. And that's a form you can easily find online, secret long form. Not that we have any concerns that there would be any adverse environmental impacts, especially given that it's a new built house, but that's what the code requires for us to have a complete record for the demolition.
For the architect?
No, generally that does not, but if the board finds that probative, which that is obviously in our purview, the village code does refer to the origin of the structure or any connection to a famous architect or connection to an inhabitant of note, that can be looked at also.
Okay, yeah, nothing came up initially when I searched for it, so we'll have to do more detail for that.
By no means am I saying it should be preserved, because I do. But look forward to that.
Yeah, okay. So, we would have to get that document into the file, but for now, is there any reason that we can't discuss reconstruction?
Sorry,
Is there any reason that we cannot discuss reconstruction?
is there an application, a pending
Yeah.
application for reconstruction? Yeah, we can go ahead and discuss reconstruction.
We're gonna adjourn this one.
Yes.
Can we, I'm just wondering if it needs to come on board again, or can be a committee to, once we know the
The
architect.
demolition can be moved to a committee too.
But the secret also has
But the
to come
sequel
back,
has to be in the file. That's why we're holding it up here.
because the resolution will be approved or whatever before this board.
Well, I can see no reason, because the seeker would come to my office. I could liaison with the committee of 2, the demolition.
Okay.
Can
That's
you
Mr.
spell
White.
CEQA for me?
Sorry?
Can you spell CEQA?
SE, State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRN,
Thank you.
QURN.
Okay, and then,
Okay.
so the demolish, the demolition will be committee of two.
Okay. Very good. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make it.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Very good. Thank you.
And then this is now for the application of the new house. So the proposed new house is a traditional style shingle gambrel style home with the main gambrel running from east to west and with a mixture of reverse gambrels on front, two gambrels and shed roofs. And on the rear, there are yeah, so this is the driveway entry. And the rear on either side of the middle shed roof is a gable, but the main gambrel runs from the west to the east in this view. And then the garage is on the left side with the second floor above. As we discussed previously, the front is well hedged. There are some like herbs and trees that are on the property towards the northeast, and then also along the western property line that we would like to level and fill in and just restore new hedge to match the existing hedge. So we maintain essentially what hedges there are on the perimeter of the property. And the sunken tennis court is shoehorned in. You can see from the site plan for the survey. And that would have a 6-foot hedge that would run around its perimeter and tie into the existing hedge along the back to essentially the northern side of the driveway parking. That is outside of the required front yard. So for the siding materials would be just natural red cedar for both the roof and the sidewall. We would like to use a Connecticut fieldstone round rectangular for the chimneys that are shown. And the trim would be a white dove into white, and the shutters would be this LED bedroom more semi-gloss. If we could go to the perspectives, maybe the front elevation. I'm sorry, the renderings. Maybe the very first one. You go down one, or previous? Yeah, so the front door and also the mudroom door, and the glass doors also have the same. Yeah.
This is for a famous footballer.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just had one question about the chimneys as depicted in the elevations. Have what seems to be an extremely high opening at the top. Which, they don't look quite the same as your Victoria renderings. But they just seem to be sort of a little showy, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, it's a little hard to represent always, but the intent would be that there would be a taper essentially to the top of where the bottom of the flue starts, and then there would be enough air space above the clay flue for airflow, and then you have the actual stone cap. So there's in the elevations where you have that 32-foot height datum, sheets A200 and A201. Essentially above that, you know, the corners are plumb, but the idea would be that where the flues are, that portion is slightly sloped into.
What
So,
page did you?
A200 or A201.
So what is the height that seems to be open with the three columns of stone?
Yeah, so the 32-foot is the datum. Above that, where the taper begins, is probably about 8 to 12 inches up, and then probably another 8 to 12 inches would be the bottom of the flue. So the flues might extend about the cement wash 6 to 8 inches, and then leaving probably 10 to 12 inches of air space before the cap.
Yeah, it seems kind of unique and ornate, and these depict what I'm speaking of, but if you go to a color rendering and zoom into it, they look quite a bit different.
Yeah, they're 100% accurate, and that's, I think, what's difficult in the way that the elevations represent. And they're obviously not the same height. The one closer to the garage, so this is the rear facing one, is lower. So that one is,
Just speaking about the height of the opening, which seems a little bit out of scale.
of the actual negative space, or
Where the fumes would be coming out of.
yes, I mean, so from where that opening is right now, I would imagine above the cement wash, a couple inches would be the bottom of the flue, and then there's about 6 inches, I would imagine, it's about the top of the flue, and you want, I would imagine, about a foot.
Can you zoom into that, like twice more?
And yeah, maybe even the other rendering might be a little closer.
Just why is it kind of weird?
But it's tapered, so you can see there's like there's a wedge basically in that, wherever that square opening is, the stone below it is cut and sloped of the same material.
So what I'm looking at in the elevation is, it's not exactly what I'm seeing there, is that correct?
No, that's 100% accurate. It's just the difference with the perspective. Yeah, both the line drawing and the rendering agree. This is a better view probably from that. If you look to the left chimney is the taller chimney, because it's obviously up a couple feet.
Right.
But I think it reads
Further
more.
into that? Can you zoom in even further? Okay.
I mean, I could look into if it's a matter of coming down 6 inches or 4 inches. I might have been trying to maintain a square proportionally within the opening, the way it reads.
I think it might, like you said, it might be the rendering, but it does sort of look like a novel approach to fume emission.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would like to take credit, but it's there are other architects that have used similar things before. But I think there's maybe 4 to 6 inches of where the stone cap would be lowered. Maintaining everything else, but the cap would be lower 4 to 6 inches.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Hearing none, okay. Very good, sorry to interrupt you.
Okay. Yeah, no, that was essentially the presentation, and if there's questions.
Having looked at this on Google Drive, there are neighbors relatively close, so if you could go over glazing on the front and back, that would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, the front on A200 and A203, Arbor Light studies.
Mhm.
And so we have beginning with A202, which is the front. It's, the porches obviously are with the front door, with the side lights, with two smaller windows to each side. And then the other windows along the first floor are a bedroom and a dining room. And then the other two on the far right on the first floor are the garage, and everything above are really bedrooms, which we need for egress and for light. But yeah, that ratio I have at 12 on the front %, and on the rear, certainly there is more glass, mainly between the breakfast and the den. Obviously, on the left side by the tennis court, there's not much. That's just the cabana and two windows above. And then it's really concentrated on the client's request to have, she would like to have bifolds to open that space up. And that was, by keeping the grills, we thought that would help minimize the sunset, the light. Those were the sizes of breakfast and the living room with the dining room. I'm sorry, with the den on the far right being covered by a porch also. So the upper one above that on the lower right is the master bedroom roof deck, which is a solid roof up to about 3 feet or so. So probably you can see from the elevations on the A200 and A201, I would say with the railing, more than a third of that would be covered. You go to the next sheet, I'm sorry, A201. On the lower right there, you can see that the glass on the right side, two patio doors flank the center picture. And then above that on the second floor is, you can zoom into the lower right, possibly.
So sort of a railing with a little knee wall, which is part of the transition?
Yeah, there'll be a metal, I'm sorry, yeah, you can see on that, on the left there, right there is a metal roof. That would probably be around 2 foot, and then there's probably a 1 foot extension of the handrail system just to get you up to the 3 foot that you need.
Oh, nice.
And that would be, again, I would say more than a third would be blocked there. And then below that is obviously the door flanked by the center picture flanked by the two doors would be underneath the porch, which if that's it's not totally open.
And ceiling heights are 10 feet?
Right.
And so the headers are like 9 or 8 for the
Oh, I'm
windows?
sorry, yeah, these are all 8 foot. The breakfast might be up slightly higher. I believe the typical head height is all 8 foot. I'm sorry, yeah, that's what it is. So the breakfast and the living room are at 9 feet. I'm sorry, living room bifolds and the breakfast are at 8. I'm sorry, at 9, and then the rest of the second floor windows are at 8 foot. The house. The rendering from the head on from the rear.
So the rear was at what percentage?
I'm sorry. Yeah, A203.
20%?
20.6.
Yeah. Any concerns over that? Nine foot?
A lot of mullions.
Yeah.
A lot of mullions.
But you need to speak up loud enough.
Said there are a lot of mullions, so I
Yes,
think
yeah.
it's not the same as
Yeah, exactly, modern.
20%.
glass, yeah. Yeah.
Megan, any thoughts?
I think there's a lot of windows and their neighbors are close. So that would be my only thought. I think the house design is beautiful. Anybody else? Any thoughts on windows?
If you're looking at the first full page, you can see the neighborhood layout. Two residences behind. Is there any, did you put any photos in the packet of the existing landscaping in the back of the property?
Question there, so from the, so in, I think it's the fourth sheet, 100.1 is the existing trail. And this is an arrow that's looking a little more. If you zoom in, you can see how much of that on the right side of the property, northeast corner, is bermed and overgrown. It's interesting because the neighbor also has like some of that on his portion of the property, so I think that we'll have to look at that in more detail, but the idea, the intent is just to level that. Insane condition kind of exists along the middle of the west portion of the side yard, which we'd like to reduce and minimize, and just replace with previous, say, unmatched existing.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I think it's beautiful.
I do think we've revisited these tall windows, whether they have mullions or not, in many of the applications of late. And
Speak up, please.
I say we've revisited height of proposed and replacement windows in the past, quite a bit recently. 9 feet is a large space.
Yeah, so the breakfast and the living room are at 9, that's the remainder.
Right, no, I understand, but we've cut down on some of that in the past, recent past, because there's constantly more awareness of night emission.
Do you have lighting, outdoor lighting, planning for the deck, second floor deck?
I don't, yeah, I think just the required sources that would be on the required for doors, and that's it. Whether or not there are small LEDs at each post, possibly, would be very low voltage. Right.
Just out of curiosity, based off of some of the pictures in your submission, is this built someplace already?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it isn't? Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Why, because you saw the picture at the beginning with the cedar?
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's an actual structure photograph.
Yeah, no, this was, I mean, it's the main gable, right, it's the big foot, and then you have the sweeps along the sides, and then just throwing some sheds, so just, carrying on the classical. And I could definitely, with the chimneys, I think there's room to go down to the 6 inches, I think, without affecting
Operation, yeah. I would prefer to see that myself. Years ago, we had a chairperson who was very difficult about chimneys, but I respected her. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's too much light emission on the top and the bottom. we've seen a lot of homes come through that are more modern, doing a similar thing with the windows, and because of the traditional style and mullions, it feels like not as much, but that's the bottom, it's like a wall of windows and back.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because I was saying the mullions were, I think you see the size.
I mean, it's floor to ceiling windows on the bottom,
Yeah.
entire wall.
I mean, for sure, with breakfast, the sill could be raised slightly, and then
Hi, thank you for hosting. You want to put your coat here? Hi, how are you?
we're making the.
How's that?
The head height as the rest of the windows are 8 foot.
Catherine, can you please mute yourself?
You couldn't stop.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, thank
Are
you.
we all on the same page? So the two outstanding issues are chimney height and window and the light emissions and are we narrowing the windows, bringing the mullions up, or?
I don't know, I think that's up to the architect, right? I think it's very classic and traditional, and I'm sure you have to deal with.
Right here, Terry, it's good to see you. Nice to see you. Thank you for.
You know what kind of windows you're using? Are they standard size from a modern or something like that?
Yeah, these are all standard height. I mean, the doors, so again, I think one easy solution would be to just reduce the living room to an 8 foot head height.
It seems like the breakfast room could stand off at the teach room type thing, so area.
One moment, I'm sorry. Catherine,
Keep yourself on mute, please.
keep yourself on mute, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'll discuss the clients, but I think, reducing the head height so that it was an 8 foot head height of the bifold door system so that it aligns with the rest of the window and doors on the first floor. Whether we leave that slightly higher or we come down a little bit for breakfast, and then we can review that together also. Yeah, I mean, we could minimize slightly, obviously, the second floor roof deck center glass. So I'll do that with them as well.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for us, or?
I think as long as we can see correct form, that's something.
I have a question for the board. I just heard.
Could you identify this for
Sorry.
the record?
Michael Davis, I'm builder.
Michael, you should come up too, because this way it'll be on the recording. Thank you.
It's very difficult designing these houses when there's no proper guidelines as far as light emission is concerned. I mean, I was here when I came in, I heard you passing a house that had 30 on the side, just massive numbers. And I think Eric said that the light emission on the back of this house is 20%. I think that's actually a pretty good goal. And we brought the doors down to 8 feet, most of them, in order to replicate the board. But every time we come before this board, all right, and we're not known for stealing. Can I just finish?
Sure, go ahead.
We're not known for steel and glass houses that put out tons and tons of light. We're respectful of that situation. And I think that we would, in addition to the mountain bars, the mullions, and a 20% light emission on the back of the house, I think this is the lowest light emission house at 20% on the rear that we've ever submitted to this board. And yet you will pass houses that have twice this light emission. So I just need an understanding.
Well, I agree that we need some parameters, actually. I would love to see a sort of floor area ratio of situation done for glazing, because I do think what you're saying is true. If you're comparing apples to apples, but you're really not, because that house had 5 acres around it and the entire square footage of the house was larger. So it's proportionate, right, to the actual house itself in terms of like how I sort of think about emission, not just the percentage from lot to lot. It's like by each house, how it feels, what the wall to window ratio is and how I'm observing it. That's just where I'm coming from.
The code itself, in so many words, refers to the possibility for light extrusion onto nearby public roads or onto neighboring residential properties. So that kind of leads us down, imperfect maybe, but a case-by-case analysis, as Mrs. Udekirk brought up. If it's a 5 acre property, the potential for light trespass to a neighbor is less than smaller or narrow.
Maybe that was a bad example because I've been to many of these hearings, and many houses that are on similar size lots that have much greater light emission, you know, on all sides than this particular house does. And, you know, as Eric pointed out, it is well screened and we intend to make it completely screened. So it's not going to be a bother to any neighbor as far as the back and side yards are concerned, the way this house is being designed. I just wanted to make that point, and it's extremely difficult to try and design a house in Sagaponic these days because we don't have any guidelines.
I agree.
And I think, you know, there needs to be a formula here. It just can't be a discretionary thing. And, you know, I mean, we've discussed this internally and we said, you know, we're never going to get through the board the first time because of this light thing. So we're just going to make all our windows 1 foot higher. And then we're going to give back a window a foot. And then everybody's happy. It doesn't make sense. We're at 8 feet, except for a few doors here. So there has to be some normalization. This is a very normal, traditional looking house. And, you know, it's understandable that the owners want to have a little bit of excitement somewhere. And, you know, I'm just looking for reason, that's all. Thank you.
So we'll obviously review and come back with our consideration. And in the interim, I mean, we're coming back for another adjournment, it sounds like, right? We're not another hearing. We'll see if we can get that process and get the architect information on.
Unless the board would like to put that to the committee of two, or would we rather all have the opportunity to look?
I would like the opportunity to look.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'll put this over to the next regular meeting. So roughly, thank you.
Thank you.
Next meeting is November 27th.
November 27, 27.
And any new submissions need to be in by the 13th.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
We have the two driveway gate adjournments.
No, I just want to get an adjournment.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay. And second?
That's okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I've never done a adjournment on consensus, but I'm sure we can do that here. We do it at the library. Is there a motion to adjourn the application for 565 Daniels?
I'll make it.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And adjournment for 70 Fairfield Pond Lane. Gates. I'll make it. And thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And an application adjournment for 555 Sagaponic Road. Is there a motion?
Sure.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And now, Mr. Lockhart.
Let me get this up.
Happy to move the picture?
Just a moment, let me just get this.
I'm not used to being on this side of the table, but it's much more enjoyable. What I'm asking is to get a determination from the board whether or not they reconsider this building historic. Let me explain what it is and where it is. This is on the eastern border of this lot, which is on the corner of Sagnade Street and Hedges Lane. This is looking due east, and the back of that building is the property line of my neighbor. And this originally was built in 1899 as a stable for horses and carriage horses. It is behind, you can see a little stair going up. That is the carriage house where the carriages were stored. And originally, this was a 4-stall stable with a single stall in each one. You can see 2 sort of shingled arches with boarded gates in front of them. The original structure, which ran, as far as I know, the length of the building that you see there, had 4 stalls and a tack room at the end where there are now these double doors. And the whole front facade was open and the stalls were behind it. And so there was sort of like a little porch area in front of the 4 stalls. As far as I know, horses have not been kept there since at least the early 60s. Tom may know better than I. The previous property owners kept horses there and in the front field. But there were no horses kept there since probably about 1963. When we bought the property in 1972, the original stable did not really exist. You can see there's been an addition where the 2 sort of French doors, double doors are, and the window. That is all an addition. It's about 10 to 15 feet further towards us than the original structure was. And you can see skylights were added and it was converted really into a shop and storage barn. Now we put up those gray gates on what were the 2 of the fronts of the stall. The building was described to me by the previous owner, who was, after we bought it, became a tenant, and so lived in the carriage house. And it's he who described what had been there. It must have been quite a beautiful stable. The stalls had wrought iron grills on them and in the doors. Those were still stored in the building, but I a friend, a watermill farmer, was building a barn for his daughter, and I gave him the grill work to put on his property. But that addition had been built, and concrete had been poured. It's a concrete floor. And also, let's take a trip around the building. Can you go to the, okay, this is looking due south. In other words, I took the picture, my back was to Hedges Lane. The stable is set back. It's virtually invisible from Hedges Lane because the property rises up. And but that is the view looking south. Now we're moving more to, there's some gates there, and they're usually closed, and so you don't see this at all from the road most of the time. You can see the addition that extends out from it, and that was built. It was built before we bought the house.
Okay, so it's in the sixties.
We did replace the door and windows there. There's also another addition. Okay, here's going around more. Now we're sort of facing the northeast. And why don't you give us the next one, which is that is looking at it mainly from the south. You can see there is also another little addition behind this giant rhododendron that is also part of the building, but that again is newer construction. I'm not sure when that was put on. This is, so, I mean, this is what is there now, and I can only describe what was, but.
These are photographs that I took Friday along the fence, which is the property line. You want to zoom in on that? That shows you.
I couldn't get in
The building
over
is
there.
only about 3 feet off of the fence.
It's actually not. The new buyer of that property, when he put the fence in, as a courtesy, set his fence back.
Oh, really? Okay.
From the property line so that we could access in case we had to reshingle, and this is a deferred maintenance problem. So
So this is from Hedges looking at the side of the structure.
Yes, and the edge of the building is actually the property line. It's sort of inconvenient was to reshingle it without trespassing. The new owner there has planted humongous hedges, and it was nice of them to set it back. And that is the carriage house. Oh, yes, that is what is in question. That's taken not from the road, but about I estimate about 10 or 15 yards from there. Behind it is another building. Is not historic. That was originally a chicken coop and chicken house, which one of the sons of the previous owner converted into a little studio for himself, and that too has been added onto. That's the carriage house there on the left, and that's an overall of it. So I don't have any plans to demolish it, but several people who have looked at the house and made inquiries here as to whether or not they could demolish that. The building inspector said that that would require a finding from you, that if they wanted to, they could. So
Wow.
I can answer any questions if you have them. You're certainly free to visit it. Nobody is living there.
Is it hindering your sale of the property?
Pardon?
Is it hindering your sale of the property?
I don't know. We haven't
Or
had an
would you
offer.
say that people would want to keep that so that they can have a little building closer to the property line? Or would you say that people would want to take it down so they can?
I can't. I do know that since the main house is historic and the carriage house, I'm assuming is historic, it's pretty much the way it was, that they would not be able to demolish anything, but they might want to put an addition on the main house that is not in sight of either Main Street or Hedges Lane, and where they would possibly need a variance for the floor area ratio. And by demolishing that building, they would get space to put on an addition that did not alter either of the facades. Another possible scenario would be to move those garages over so that it could be used from the main driveway and not the other driveway there. And there's currently, none of these pictures will show it, but between the carriage house and the guest house, you can kind of see a white line going due north and south. There's a fence there that is also non-conforming, I guess, which is 8 feet high. And it's kind of like a shingle wall. And I guess that was to shield the horses and the whatever was going on in the stables from the main house.
May I ask what your hope for the building would be?
For the stable, the wood shop,
What would you like to see? Or
I
not?
frankly don't care. I would think, it depends. Someone might want to keep it. People want to store all these antique cars, and perhaps that would be a plus. And the fact that its location is could not be duplicated, couldn't get it more set back from the house. So I really don't know, but I do know that I think John can confirm we've had some inquiries.
There have been inquiries on the house.
No, I mean about whether or not that is.
Yes, they've asked what can be taken down, what can stay, could this be added on to?
Is it actively listed? Sorry.
Yes, it's actively listed. It is the whole place is kind of a study in deferred maintenance. And I mean, it's not air conditioned. It has the original windows, which have combination storm with screens, but in the kitchen, in a windy night, you can't keep a candle lit on the dining table. It has.
If you have them blowing over.
It's quirks, but whoever buys it, if anyone, is going to have a restoration project on their hands.
But the main house is historic? The main house is historic?
Yes.
And the tenant's house is historic.
The carriage house, I don't really know.
Yeah, that was.
Okay, so
that was
that's
part
also
of
a
it.
question.
Well, it's not the question for this discussion.
I know, I'm asking if.
So the elements that we can look to, I see 245, 73. That is B lowercase d.
It's not listed on the.
1 through 7.
Doesn't mean anything because it's historic if you say it.
Right.
And those are the elements that we can look for. I can read them through if the board so wants, in determining if a building is historic or not.
I would like to hear.
Sure.
There's no question it was built contemporaneously
Right.
with the main house. I have pictures of it from 1899.
Wow.
And it's had some renovations, some dormers were added, God knows when. But it's pretty much what has always been there.
So the elements does the building possess a special character or historic or aesthetic interest or value as part of the cultural, political, economic, or social history of the village, region, state, or nation? Or is it identified with historic personages or is the site of a historic event in the village, state, or nation? Or does it embody the distinguishing characteristics of a type, period, style, or method of architecture or engineering? Or is the work of an important builder, designer, architect, or artist or architect whose work has significantly influenced an age? Or because of its unique location or singular physical characteristics or landscape, represent an established and familiar visual or aesthetic feature of the neighborhood? Or is it a significant or significant for containing elements of design, details, materials, or craftsmanship for which represent a significant innovation? Or finally, has special historical significance to the village of Sagaponack, the town of Southampton, the county of Suffolk, the state of New York, or United States of America by reason of famous events or the antiquity or uniqueness of the architectural construction or design, or its inclusion as a structure listed within the February 2017 inventory of selected historical structures outside of the National Register and Historic District as filed in the clerk's office. So those are 7 elements that we could look to.
As I said, that's probably of the total structure, maybe 25% of it is the original structure.
The stable is the original.
I guess that's the question,
Yeah.
Just on the northern side.
Right. I wonder if there is.
The stable elements are definitely single style.
Pardon?
The stable elements with the arches are
Right, and
distinct single
they
style.
mirror the arches that were on the porch, on the main.
Yes.
They're still there.
By accident or design, I'm not sure.
I guess the question is, have the 2 additions obviated the historical significance?
I see nothing in the code that either bars us from finding only a portion of the structure to be significant. That being said, I have seen case law from jurisdictions that are not ours that say a property can lose its historicity by over restoration. But this doesn't seem really to be an over restoration as much as just additions to the structure.
And a change of use.
Yeah.
As far as the interior goes, the actual stalls themselves, the tack shop, the equestrian part
They
of the
had
building.
been ripped out before we bought the property.
So that's something that we can take into consideration. But I also, those seven elements are things that we can all weigh in our decision.
This board does have a precedent for a building which had been added onto over time, and actually a model of it is on the wall right here. This was an original Philip Johnson house, that from rumors say it was built for his mistress. But over the time, previous owner,
He was a homosexual.
Oh,
might have been a guy in a dress.
Mr.
But they did add onto it, so the original home was just consumed with the additions, and your board found no historical value left to the home and allowed it to be demolished.
That was done recently in the village of Southampton with a Norman, I always mispronounce it, Jaffe, J-F-E.
Jaffe.
I always butcher a Norman Jaffe house.
That was close.
that had been just far over restored, and the AHRB there said there's very little historicity left. Whatever Japanese vision was, has kind of been hidden beneath all of these 90s renovations.
If it weren't deemed historic, would it still be pre-existing non-conforming? So even if it's not historic, someone could still keep it there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It can be maintained, restored.
Yeah. And ostensibly, the extensions could be removed and it can go back to its normal way and someone can play with the 100 square feet they got.
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Because we have no prospective buyer.
Mhm.
And may never have.
If you did though, and I know it's, we're just talking about this structure, but the other two structures, they are for sure deemed historic, is that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Just the optionality of this piece, basically.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts.
These were the two original summer cottages. This one and the one on the corner of Parsonage and Hedges Lane, which was built a year earlier than this one. And they were the first sort of
First two vacationers.
major
Yeah.
flags of a summer, they call it a summer colony, that they were actually the colonists planting their flags here.
Do we know if there are any other in Sagaponic sort of stables like this on a home that aren't actually horse stables? Still, does that make sense, my question? So obviously there are horse stables, Wolfer and Topping, but on a
But
residence.
those were from carriage horses. They didn't date from
Right,
that
okay.
time. Those are more modern.
This resembles a little bit of a stable that was on Matheson's property.
Also Niner McRae's property,
Right.
an original stable and carriage house or what would you call it, a horse hands,
Stable.
Stable Boys place. Was one of the houses which is actually very close to you and up by the road. It had been converted into a house before the village was formed.
By the St. John property or before the Polimus, the one right next to me?
It's right, actually, I think it's right next to you.
Yeah.
274.
And that still had several of the arches that were two of the original stables, and you did allow for the house to be added on to and renovated. But that was an original stable that was converted into a home long ago.
I would be in favor of deeming it historical. We're the mayor, and this was your home, and I feel like you've preserved it and used it. And I feel personally, unless you would prefer to have it taken away, I feel like it should be deemed historic. That's my.
The same point, if someone is gonna take over the stewardship of the property, there's so much historical restoration, everything that maybe to incentivize someone who's forced to play by every single rule for us to restore the place can add something in the back, maybe give them the viability. I mean, losing a place that's closer than it should be to the neighbors, I would never.
Well, in the event that and this might be getting a little too far into a tangent, but in the event that a buyer truly wanted to reconfigure the property, he could go to the zoning board of appeals, and at least in my opinion, and I'm not familiar with our ZBA, but they have to look at the same 5-part test, the same factors, which are state law that every ZBA has to. And I think there's a compelling argument that this is a very constrained property if they had to stick by the setbacks, stick by the lot area, the floor area requirements, and they would be able to get the relief. What I'm saying is I think that they would probably stand a very good chance of getting relief if they did want to expand onto the main house in exchange for keeping historic structures in place.
Would it be worth checking to see if it's if the structure and size enough that you could declare it condemnable once you get into it?
What's the
Well,
condition
that's,
inside?
that's a case by case
Yeah.
situation with a new buyer, really, in my mind.
I don't think the stable is in any worse shape than the house itself.
Diplomatic.
It's not as bad as.
It's not about to fall down,
Right, yeah,
but, or at least the newer portion of it
right.
isn't.
Yeah, I think from the discussion, I think you are you're able to say, if you want to go back in there, they're open-minded about considerations. But for us to say, go ahead, tear it off, I don't think that that's what you want to do right now. Is that correct, or am I misreading?
I have no plans
Okay.
for the property other than to sell
Sell
it.
it, right,
And
okay,
to try and keep from having to re-roof it.
right,
So
okay.
if I had to re-roof it, I'd give it away.
I hear you.
So I can imagine you're probably being asked.
But people,
So,
Yeah.
real estate people,
yes,
architects, people looking at them, nobody is going to buy that house and restore it 100%. They are going, it was designed in 1899, it was designed as a summer cottage. It was designed before everybody with 2 legs is entitled to its own ensuite bathroom. And so.
If you stack
it's
them,
going to be
Things are gonna
renovated.
be changed. Right.
So
is
the
there a way to
property,
say, sorry, is there a way to say that there's a, I don't know the answer to this at all, conditional approval to take it down based on what they're gonna do on the entire property or something like that?
Well, again, it depends on the buyer, and I'm just saying.
I'm saying to keep it
say-
open to a prospective buyer might be more inclined to make an offer to say, if I can have some, sense that there's a conditional approval
But
based
to
on the
leave
rest of the
that-
restoration.
But to leave that decision,
People are asking,
yeah, we're
is this
open-minded about it.
building historic
Right.
in terms
Yes or no?
of whether or not it has to be preserved?
well, even if it's.
You are the people who decide that.
Right.
So.
Can
I
we-
mean,
can we
it
say-
either is historic or it isn't.
Right.
If you deem it historic, we'll say it's deemed historic.
I feel like the stable is historic.
Can we say that these 2 stables are historic?
They're
What
not
happens here?
stables anymore.
I know, but
Right.
what happens here is not. Are we allowed to say that?
I see
this-
nothing precluding us from saying that. I see nothing that would stop us from, or particularly, I think if we could substantiate that with historic aerials. I know the town's GIS has in the county, and we can just see, we can find the oldest black and white aerial and see what the rough dimensions are of the structure. We can annex that to whatever entry we make into the Register of Historic Properties. And even if we do deem the entire structure or part thereof historic, that doesn't preclude a subsequent applicant from demolishing it. It makes it that much more difficult, yes, but they can still apply for a demolition permit if that's how they want to proceed.
But at least this, half of it being historic
No,
would give
no,
them
not half,
the leeway,
maybe a third.
a third, would give them the leeway to play with this part.
Correct. So the use as it is now, is it a standalone subsidiary dwelling? It has a restroom and
No, there's
a bedroom?
No, there's no plumbing. in it.
There's no plumbing?
No.
It was used as a wood shop.
Oh, I'm sorry. So is there another dwelling on the property which is a separate?
Two others.
That's a chicken coop.
So there are 2 other dwellings.
Three
Three other dwellings.
COs on the
Look,
property.
look at the
The
aerial
main
view.
house, the carriage house,
Oh,
and then the one
already.
that the previous owner's son
Here, you can see,
summarized.
there's 4
Okay.
buildings.
So,
Oh, this is all, can you go back to that
Right,
spiral?
yeah.
So 1, 2, all of these buildings are the same property.
Yes.
I see.
But do all the 3 of those have they
CO
definitely have a historic designation.
and the CO, yeah, and they're living,
So, okay.
separate living spaces.
Okay.
So I mean, not that
So any
it means
prospective
anything.
buyer is already coming in there with 3 historic
I
structures.
agree with those, yeah.
Three
Full
COs,
stop.
yeah.
And that's not that this factors in either way, but to me, that's a huge selling feature in itself, because you can't as of right have multiple dwellings on a piece of land
Exactly,
under
yeah.
current zoning.
Yeah.
So that's something to be taken under advisement, I guess.
The only building there that is designated historic is the house,
The main house.
Main house.
the main house.
So they're not,
The carriage, is silent on the carriage house. The guest house is non-historic. That's
That was modified
this was
just south of the stable.
this here.
Yeah, that was
That was
changed
a
from a
chicken
chicken
coop.
coop. Yeah.
Oh,
chicken house. And it's had gone through 2 remodelings, probably 3, because I think this may be a new section. But there's no question that is historic in any way. But it does have its own CO. It has a kitchen.
So in the event that a purchaser did want to demolish something to make room for anything, they could demolish that without running afoul of its historicity or lack thereof.
You have the power here. If you say it's historic until a judge overrules you.
I feel like.
I think with the precedent of chicken coop, it's no, yeah.
It has elements that lend to the character. of the
Right.
property too, so.
Because of the lot line issues, it can't really be touched anyways if it does stay in the property. Can they make major alterations in something?
I don't know.
Well, they can't make it more non-conforming, but you can
Pull
maintain,
it in.
add on to, alter the pre-existing non-conforming structures by our code.
So maybe given that it has that status due to its lot line location, it gets its quasi-historical, I mean, there's incentive for restoration for someone, but someone who's,
A pre-existing use is not a definition of historical.
yeah.
Correct.
So we're really talking about one arch that has shingle style elements to it.
Or there are 2 arches there. Yeah.
But behind the arch, which was really what gave the building
A true tack room.
its character,
That's all.
is no more.
Yeah.
I think this building has lots of character.
Well, I'm saying that its original character.
Like it.
I feel like calling it historical adds a lot of heavy lifting to the next owner. Because there are so few elements left to it that are historical.
That being said, the next owner will know to an extent what they're getting into if other parts of the property are landmarked.
Yeah.
They also can come back to us and say, we would like to demolish this historic building, and we can say yes or no.
Yes, absolutely, and they can make the same arguments that we've heard, that, this has been renovated on the interior, that, there's a lack of integrity.
My vote is to keep it, is to deem it historical.
Emily, you're in the same line?
I keep going back and forth on it. But yes, I would, there is some parts of historic. But I think that, yes.
But that's, I'm not sure that's an actionable determination. If someone then would apply to just demolish the 65% that bears no resemblance to what was there, then that would be approved.
Yes, yeah.
You got that, John?
What do you want?
What I don't,
He wants the
the
truth.
building has no historical significance to me whatsoever. I mean, and I to leave just this little amputated portion of the building as a representation
Right.
of anything is ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're here because if you didn't come here and we didn't deem it historical, it would just get torn down probably, right?
I can't.
Or restored.
I think,
Just to be sympathetic.
It could be recycled. I mean, a lot of people now, including my new neighbor, has permission for 18 cars in his garage.
May I ask, I think, is the intention that you're saying you don't, it's not meaningful to you, you want to sell the entire property, so Reality is you're,
I just would like to be able to clarify for
If it is
potential.
historic or not.
right, which,
Potential buyers, what their options, and that's what they're asking, what their options
we're educating this to them.
Uh, And I assume for any architect that were to be hired to say, you know, how do we preserve this and still make it livable for a buyer who wants to part with that much money? Can he? Or can he?
Sure.
Or is he gonna spend his life bouncing between the boards here? In addition to waiting 3 years to get into his restored home.
Well, even if we do land market or deem it historic, there
I don't
is,
believe you can land market.
deem it historic, I misspeak. There still is the possibility that a subsequent applicant can apply for demolition. As you're aware that it does make it that much more difficult of a task, but that still is a
And
possibility.
that's what they're gonna ask.
The trustees would have to land market if we so went that route.
Yeah, my sense is I'd rather hear the request from the new owner, which doesn't give you the answer that you're looking for.
Well,
Unfortunately.
it's probably gonna dissuade a lot of people. But this is, you know, the conundrum that you're gonna face.
Right,
At some point.
Yeah.
Where that building is just, the historic building is just going to collapse.
But I think if someone's coming in for a historic renovation anyway, they're gonna have, it's better in context to have them present what they're gonna do on the entire property, and then it'll be much more clear whether or not this piece is irrelevant or not. I completely understand and I'm empathetic to the fact that I'm sure the market is telling you we need to definitively know.
Oh, there's
In
no
order to
question.
solicit offers
The
from
property
brokers.
is worth more without any of the building.
Of course, oh man,
Yeah.
of course.
Well, what Mr. Lockheim, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm understanding is you would just rather have a firm answer now.
No, but I think it would be helpful for me to tell my real estate agent, the board is going to, it's possible the board will deem a portion of that building or the whole thing. I don't know how you can do that, but you'll have to, that's for a court to decide. If I tell them, I can tell them, no, you think the building's historic, nothing can be done to it unless you can get a lawyer to argue that they have no business doing that.
Right.
But I doubt the prospective purchaser really, there are so many other drawbacks to the purchase of that property that, you know, to add one more is.
An albatross, yeah.
But that's your prerogative.
Okay.
So I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't expect any decision today. And maybe you'll just kick the can down the road forever.
Can we give him an answer? Okay.
Will be unanimous.
It will?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Why?
I don't think it needs to be historic. I think in this case, there's such an uphill battle of stewardship for this property and so much to do. So our job of preserving these important buildings actually gets done. On the other side, this is why we exist, because 1890 shingle style places get ruined like this, but it's gotten ruined. So I think you could still market it for someone preservation minded or just as greedy as myself, who would never get rid of a place that had lot line issues. And there's historical pictures of it. So I think you still could incentivize the right person to have that opportunity. But given that we're deeming it historic with a wink, maybe we cut to the chase. So you could be, if we're deeming historic with a wink, then what I'm saying is also equally as true. That someone can go there with the idea of taking it down and be like, actually, here's how it used to look. You know, you can carve out this 10 by 10 and this little extension, move that and add square footage that way.
Well, the demolition will have to come in front of us no matter what, if it's landmarked or not.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, John. I think what all prospective buyers are interested in is, given the floor area ratio that you have, that we have in the village, and which I helped enact, what can I do with the property?
You want that extra
And
space for that.
space
Or for a pool.
is fungible.
Yeah.
On most properties.
Sure.
If you tear something down,
You get- yeah.
you can transfer the square footage to somewhere else. And so, probably the first thing that any responsible buyer doing their due diligence is going to ask is, how much square footage do I have to play with?
Yeah.
I mean, how many acres is the lot?
Pardon?
How many acres is your lot?
6.5.
4.
They're already gonna have a large size lot, large size house as it is, right?
But I've got 4 buildings on it.
Right. Right, and this
And
isn't
2 representing about 9,000 square feet or more are being deemed historic.
Is it divisible? Is it a divided lot? Can you divide it or no?
No,
The
they're actually, it's 2 separate lots.
Right.
But they're, for all intent and practical purposes, can be merged or be put in common ownership, where you would get the square footage that is allocated to the total 4 square.
So you're selling it as one.
Yes, and if you just do it for the 2.5 acre lot,
Right.
it is already non-conforming.
I think
We're close to it, isn't it?
Well, with the work you did with the kitchen and everything else, the property is maxed for that one lot that's on. The lot that's actually on Saturday is a separate lot, which is vacant.
Right, yeah. The front lot on Main Street is already in the plan.
But if it's part of the other lot,
yeah.
that space is allocable, but the way
Even
the
under those
formula
circumstances,
works,
still was
the
pushing.
larger your lot, it's not, it's logarithmically less.
Right.
I mean, you get less for 4 acres than you do for 1 acre lots.
I think what's bothering me is just that a broker or prospective purchasers are not saying to you that they could make an offer, they could then come and see what the viability is of this one structure before going to contract. I mean, I don't know, it feels a little bit, I completely understand, I don't think, it's probably not historic, I kind of agree with you, but I just feel like the attitude could be that
I'd rather have the
such a special,
conversation, yeah.
yeah, it's such a special property to begin with. It obviously has historic components that are much larger and more significant than this one. So they would have to come with a plan anyway, right? And it just,
But if they are making the request,
They would like
I
to
think
know.
you're not living in the real world. I'm perfectly willing to say, if that's what I have to, that no, you may not be able to use the square footage. And in your decision of whether or not to buy the property, if that makes a difference, then don't buy the property.
Well, if a prospective buyer had any plans in their mind that would require either the demolition or a change or relief from square footage. For the demo, they would have to come to us regardless, and for a change in square footage, they'd have to go to
Anybody
ZBA.
can understand that. But if they believe that they're being seen as destroyers of history, tradition, they've got enough obstacles already to persuade them not to buy this property without
Which, yeah,
adding one more. And presumably, although it's going to get to a point where the only people who will buy the house are developers. And then if they're gonna have to fight for the stable, why not fight you on the carriage house? Why not fight you on the guest house?
Any demolition application would still have to come to us, though.
Yeah, but it's hard to defend, we just dealt with that, it's hard to defend a cute little thing. We just had that on Wainscott and Townsend.
Well, that was
Like,
arguably distinguishable because that only dated to the 1950s, and that had been, from what I understand, massively gutted and renovated to the point where it had virtually no historic character inside. 1890s and 1950s are two different things. Particularly if, as Mayor Lockheim mentions, there are historic resources that have photographs of this and descriptions of it.
I've never seen a description.
No description.
Photographs of the stable. The only thing I have is a postcard that was made around the turn of the century. At the same, and it looks exactly like the postcard of the bridge, which is really just a frontal showing the carriage house and the main house. And they're not very large, but certainly the stable, I'm assuming it was built then, but it doesn't show.
We can see, I mean, I can look if we have the patience of what the historic aerials show and how early of a photograph it's represented in.
Well, they're dying, but there's some magnificent beech trees in the front of the house, and the photograph that I have shows those trees as being about 5 feet tall.
Okay.
So maybe we just need to look into this a little bit more and come up with a definitive answer. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know.
Perfectly capable of saying that the board is unwilling to make a determination on whether this is historical or not.
Well, if I had to make a determination today with what you came in with, I would say 1899, 25% of the existing structure, I would say that it would be considered historic.
Okay.
I would lean, and that's what I would say. The rest of it, not so much. But this, 1899, 4-stall stable, 25%, that's what I would go with.
Has to stay, which would give them this, they could tear down and use that for square footage in their house.
And if somebody does buy the house and that is something that they want to take down, then that's something we would review at that time. But if a client is looking for, if somebody's interested in the house, I would be willing to say that.
Agreed.
Haven't we also had real estate people come before us to ask us before they buy a property what they can do?
Not in a very long time. When it comes to historic homes, when they call me to ask about them, my first response is, my response to you is going to be a whole lot of I don't knows, because it's up to the Architectural and Historic Review Board to make these determinations. And only someone with a vested interest, like Mayor Lockheim, can actually come before you. It has to be a contract ND, it has to be an owner. It can't just be a real estate agent.
the situation with the other shingle style house where someone had bought it. We went through the planning process and then they tried to sell it, plans in place.
Oh,
Right.
Greenridge, no, that actually, the guy backed out of the
The
sale.
guy,
He walked away
yeah.
from his 2 million.
Right.
Oh.
Yes, he lost at one point.
Yeah,
Well, the fact of the matter is that no matter who purchases, they'll still have to come before us for demo.
right.
1540
But this is
maybe.
just giving an edge to selling it,
This
I guess is
village
what.
has a reputation. And, you know, the only other house similar to ours, the guy was willing to forfeit a $2 million deposit and walk away just because of all the issues involved.
But he got approved for everything.
But that's
No,
why,
he didn't. No, he didn't.
The one on Saguenay and Parsonage, I thought
Yes.
it was approved to
It was
build.
approved.
It was approved.
Not everything.
Contract
quite a
and
bit.
he walked.
But he walked from 2 million.
He walked away from his 1.9 million
Yeah.
deposit, his payment to Jaffe, his payment to the landscape architect, his payment to Michael Davis for their consulting fees.
It's crazy. It's the house that's a lot like yours. It's on
Yes,
Saguenay
it's
and Parsonage.
very similar, Tony Brown.
Yeah.
Actually, that property had St. Anne's Church.
Right,
St. Anne's Rectory came from that property.
yeah.
There was a lot of stuff there. There were Columbus, Ohio. And
But remember the gentleman,
That's correct, Mr.
that
Shaw.
was,
And a lot of the windows in the Presbyterian church are similar to the windows in our house.
remember the gentleman who had an ill wife across from Pikes?
Yes.
That real estate person came in front of us, didn't he?
No, I would not allow a real estate agent to come before you,
So-
not in a very long time. I mean, we'd have to go back to some of the original board members of the ARB. Who, real estate agents came and actually asked questions, some ARB members stayed silent, some spoke, and the real estate agents walked out of here saying, well, this is what they'll let us do. So when they actually brought the project before the board, there was a completely different scene. So that's when we stopped allowing real estate agents to come in and ask questions. That was a long time ago.
So,
Okay. Are we resolved? Do we want to think about it?
I don't think thinking about it, I mean,
I don't need an answer this minute.
okay.
So if the applicant is willing, or if you're willing to allow the board adjournment, we can discuss amongst ourselves.
I will, but Pat, I will be calling you several weeks from now
Do some homework on it.
to ask if there's been any decision. Otherwise, until then, I will tell the real estate agents that
Think about it.
I don't know, but the general tenor seemed to be, they want to keep part of it.
Great. I would say that's accurate at this point, yes.
Small portion, yes.
but Tony doesn't agree. He would
But-
say,
No, I think since we're not fully committing, I think
If we're,
I can agree to that, but I'd like to look inside, maybe get a chance to look inside and see if maybe there's structural components that would obviate the historic quality of it.
Is it openable?
Yes,
Okay.
not the new part,
Mhm.
but I'll unlock it. There's nothing in it. All the tools and equipment have been removed.
Maybe just give me a call. I can.
No, I'll go there and
Okay.
and anybody can walk through it.
Okay.
But I would ask,
Mhm.
what is the purpose of preserving these two
Staples.
empty stalls, which don't even look like they did? I mean, it'd be nice if somebody would come along and restore the stalls and set them back and remove those gates and so forth. But good luck.
Okay.
all right.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll see you at the next scheduled meeting. Should we?
Sure.
Does that sound?
Or I could, Donna's gonna call me in a couple of weeks, so I'll just.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we do have a challenge to your holiday schedule. We do need to pick a date for the December meeting.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
I thought we decided on something last week.
Yeah, we did for,
We said it, right?
December 18th.
December 18th.
Yes. Well, first you're gonna do committee of two.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I have two assignments already. Is there anybody who wants to do?
I'll do committee twos.
And then you'll need to make a motion about the change for
Yeah.
that meeting.
So I'll float the motion to have the December meeting on December 18th as opposed to Christmas Day. We'll see how that comes out. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And now we have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there anybody who wants to go home? Let the dog out?
Ooh. Dunkin' Donuts thing.
Okay. Okay. Tony, second? Okay. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great.